Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur-militang yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Godavani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyabadi Paschatya Deshatarane Trinadapi Sunichena Taradiva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Namaiva Kevalam Kalo Nasyeva 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 Gatiranyata. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today's class, the subject matter is Omkar. We're going to hear different concepts from Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures about Omkar. I begin by invoking Omkar. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So for the first level, we will see different verses and lines from Bhagavad Gita. First one is from chapter 7, verse 8. Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. So the synonyms, Pranava. So Pranava is another way of saying Om, but it's actually 3 letters, A, U, and M. And we're going to hear more about that later. Sarva in all Vedeshu. So in all the Vedic scriptures, there is, Krishna says, one of my opulences is this Pranava or Om. It is a representation of Krishna. It is another incarnation of Krishna. So here, the next excerpt is from chapter 8, verse 13. Om yit yekaksharang Brahma. So Om, the combination of 3 letters, Omkar, which we already discussed. Iti, thus eka, aksharam, the one syllable. So it's 3 syllables, but it becomes one, Om. And then Brahma, the absolute. So this Omkar is an absolute sound vibration. It is not material in any sense. It is completely spiritual, completely transcendental, therefore absolute, no duality. Everything in the material energy has a dualistic nature. But everything in spiritual world is absolute. There is no duality. Everything is of the same quality. Then in the 10th chapter, in the Vibhuti Yoga chapter, where Krishna lists his opulences, Giram Asyekam Aksharam, Giram of vibrations, Asmi, I am. So Krishna is directly stating that this vibration, Om, is him. Ekam Aksharam Pranava, Omkar. It is directly Krishna himself. All right, and then our final excerpt from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17. Tasmad Om It Yudaritya Yagya Dana Tapakriya Parvartante vidhanokta satatang brahma vadinam. Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. So this later on in chapter 18, these three things, sacrifice, charity, and penance, Krishna goes on to say that even advanced sages and mystics, they also perform sacrifice, charity, and penance because they find it purifying. So, in terms of devotees in ISKCON, their main sacrifice is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Of course, the term sacrifice simply means to do something which satisfies the senses of Krishna. That is the basic definition of sacrifice. To do something to benefit Krishna, for Krishna's satisfaction. So there are 9 items of devotional service, such as what you're doing now, hearing. So this can also be considered a sacrifice. And we began the program by invoking Om when we chanted Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And charity. Charity should be done in the mode of goodness, because in this chapter 17, charity was explained can be charity in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness. And then there's transcendental charity, that's when you give Krishna consciousness to someone else. That is transcendental charity. And penance, today is a day of penance, Ekadashi. Today is a day of penance. Penance means to deny the body sense gratification in order to achieve a higher purpose. So on Ekadashi, we fast from grains and beans, and others, they fast from food completely, and even some, they fast even from any kind of drink or water. So all of that is to please Lord Krishna. So beginning any performance, one should recite Om. And for those of you who may doubt, when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Om is automatically included in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. In some places, you will see Om is put before the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and that is okay, but actually it's not needed, because Prabhupada writes that Om is automatically included in the Maha Mantra. That's why it's called the Maha Mantra. We're going to hear about this Maha Mantra or Mahavakya coming up soon in this class. So next, I found this purport from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Prabhupada is quoting Srila Jiva Goswami, one of the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, and how he explains Om. This is very esoteric. Srila Jiva Goswami, a direct disciple of Lord Chaitanya, states that the substance of all the Vedic mantras is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Every mantra begins with the prefix Nama Om. So Nama Om means I surrender, I offer my obeisances, Om. That's how you address the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And eventually addresses by name the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all the Vedic mantras are like that. Nama Om Vasudevaya, Nama Om Trivikamraya, Nama Om Govindaya, Nama Om Damodaraya, Nama Om Narasimhaya. All the Vedic mantras are like that. Begins with Nama, obeisances, surrender. Then the Omkar, the Mahavakya, the great sound, and then the specific name of the personality of Godhead. As we chanted in the beginning, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. By the supreme will of Krishna, there is a specific potency in each and every mantra chanted by great sages like Narada Muni and other rishis. Chanting the holy name of the Lord immediately renovates the transcendental relationship of the living being with the Supreme Lord. So this right here is yet another one of the millions of reasons why we chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We are chanting this Mahamantra because it consists of the holy names of God. There's nothing else. Hare Krishna Rama, names of God. That's all it is, nothing else. And what does it do? Immediately renovates the transcendental relationship of the living being with the Supreme Lord. Currently, we are in the material world, and we have forgotten what is our original relationship with God. We don't know. Each of us, every one of us, has a unique individual relationship with God. But at the present moment, we have forgotten it. We have lost it. So to renovate something, renovate that, Prabhupada used this word very scientifically, renovate. When your house gets damaged, you renovate it, you put it back to new. So our original relationship with Krishna has been lost or damaged. So by chanting the Mahamantra, we are renovating, making it once again good. All right, now we go to the second level. The second level, Lord Chaitanya is going to teach us about Omkar. So here's what Lord Chaitanya teaches. The Vedic sound vibration, Omkar, the principal word in the Vedic literature. So that's the meaning of Mahavakya. Principal word in the Vedic literatures is the basis of all Vedic vibration. Therefore, one should accept Omkar as the sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the reservoir of the cosmic manifestation. So what's Lord Chaitanya saying here? This whole material cosmic manifestation emanated from sound Om. Lord Chaitanya continues, it is the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to present Pranava, or Omkar, as the reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. So what's a reservoir? It's a great container. That's a reservoir. So there's a reservoir of Vedic knowledge. So that reservoir of Vedic knowledge is right there in Pranava, Omkar. The words Tat Tvam Asi are only a partial explanation of the Vedic knowledge. So here, Lord Chaitanya is referring to the very, very famous phrase, Om Tat Sat. So that syllable Tat, this is what it comes from, Tat Tvamasi. What does it mean? It means you are the same in quality as Om, and therefore the last word, Sat, eternal. So yes, the living entity is one with God in the sense that God is spiritual and the living entity, the soul, is spiritual. That was the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. You're not your body. You're not your mind. You are spirit. Or we have this phrase, Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I am spirit. I am eternal. So Tattvamasi in the mantra, Om Tat Sat, simply means just as Om is completely transcendental and spiritual, I also, the living entity, am also of the same quality, not the same quantity, because there's a difference between the sun and the sunshine. The sunshine is the same quality as the sun, but the sun planet is immensely, immensely more powerful than the sun ray. So yes, the living entity is one with God only in quality, not quantity. Krishna is compared to the sun, Krishna Surya Sama, and the living entity is compared to the sun ray. Lord Chaitanya continues, Pranava Omkar is the Mahavakya or Mahamantra in the Vedas. Shankaracharya's followers cover this to stress without authority the mantra Tat Tvam Asi. So the followers of Shankaracharya, they wanted to present their Mayavad philosophy. The essence of the Mayavad philosophy is that the living entity and God are one in all respects, including potency. That was the basic fundamental teaching of Shankaracharya's Mayavad philosophy, that the living entity and God are actually one in every respect. But that's not the Vaishnava conclusion, that's not the Bhagavatam conclusion, and the four other acharyas, Ramanuja, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, and Madhva Acharya, they don't agree with Shankaracharya. All four other Vaishnava acharyas, they understand, as I just explained, we are one with God in quality, not quantity. So Omkar is the Mahavakya, not Tat Tvam Asi. The Mahavakya is Omkar, or the Mahamantra. Lord Chaitanya continues, the transcendental vibration, Omkar, is the sound form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All Vedic knowledge and this cosmic manifestation are produced from this sound representation of the Supreme Lord. So in the Bible, they have this opening, one of the chapters of the Bible begins with, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. That's there in the Christian Bible. But they don't know what that word is, and we can inform them. Yes, that word is Omkar, A-U-M. That is the word that is mentioned in that chapter in the Bible. The subsidiary vibration, Tat Tvam Asi, you are the same, is meant for the understanding of the living entity. But the principal vibration is Omkar. But not caring for Omkar, Shankara Acharya has stressed the vibration Tat Tvam Asi. Now we go to the third level of this class. So this Prakashananda Saraswati, he was the leading Mayavadi sannyasi at the time of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya first converted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was also the great Mayavadi scholar in India at that time. These two personalities, Prakashananda Saraswati and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, were the two top Mayavadi preachers. Sarvabhauma was not a sannyasi, he was a householder. But Prakashananda Saraswati, he was sannyasi. So these two personalities were the two top Mayavadi preachers in all of India 500 years ago during the time of Lord Chaitanya. So first, Lord Chaitanya converted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and made him a devotee. And then later on, when Lord Chaitanya was in Kashi, Benares, he was able to convert Prakashananda Saraswati. So they had a discussion. Lord Chaitanya and they had a discussion. And here is what Prakashananda says. we can understand the faults you have pointed out in the Mayavad philosophy. All the explanations given by Shankaracharya are imaginary. My dear Lord, whatever direct meaning you have given when explaining the Brahma Sutra is another name for the Vedanta Sutra, is certainly very wonderful to us all. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you have inconceivable energy. So this statement by Prakashananda Saraswati is significant. At this point, he has been converted from a Mayavadi to a devotee. And look what he says to Lord Chaitanya. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is a big admission for this leader of the Mayavad Sampradaya to now reject Shankaracharya and accept Lord Chaitanya as God. That is a tremendous event. But look what he says, you have inconceivable energies. And that's a very important concept when understanding God. If you ask common people on the street, if you ask 100 people, you will probably get 100 different definitions of what they mean by God. But here is one of the most important understandings. If you truly understand what we mean by the word God, you have to accept that he has inconceivable energies. In other words, God by definition can do anything. He can defy the laws of material nature, which he himself created. And inconceivable means he has energies and potencies you are not even able to think of. So this is a very, in the Sanskrit is called Achintya Shakti, inconceivable powers or energies. That is when you understand God, when you can accept that fact. So I wish to hear from you briefly about the Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra. So now Lord Chaitanya is going to explain to us, and we're going to see how he replied to Prakashananda Saraswati now that he has surrendered and accepted Lord Chaitanya as God. Look what Lord Chaitanya says. I am an ordinary living being, and therefore my knowledge is very insignificant. However, the meaning of the Brahma Sutra is very grave, because its author, Vyasadeva, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. The purport of the Vedanta Sutra is very difficult for an ordinary person to understand, but Vyasadeva, out of his causeless mercy, has personally explained the meaning. So if the Vedanta Sutra is explained by Vyasadeva himself, who has written it, its original meaning can be understood by the people in general. Yes, the Vedanta Sutra is written in code form. So in order to actually understand the Vedanta Sutra, number one, you have to be very proficient in Sanskrit. And number two, you have to be very familiar with the 108 Upanishads. I have looked into this Vedanta Sutra, and all of the references are to shlokas and verses from the 108 Upanishads. So you have to know all the Upanishads. You have to be expert in Sanskrit. Then you can understand Vedanta Sutra. So for the general mass of people, it is beyond their scope. Just like anyone who was a computer writer, who writes computer code, because he knows the code, then he can write a beautiful computer program. But someone like me, I don't know anything about computer code. If I was to get a manual with a computer code in it, it would just look like a bunch of numbers and letters. It would make no sense to me. But somebody who knows the code can understand, oh, this string does this does this, because he understands the code. So the Vedanta Sutra was written like that, in code form. The meaning of the sound vibration Omkar is present in the Gayatri Mantra. The same is elaborately explained in the 4 shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam, known as Chatu Shloki. So Chatu Shloki is found in the 2nd canto, chapter 9, verses 33 through 36. Those are the original 4 verses of Bhagavatam that were spoken by Lord Narayan to Lord Brahma at the time of the dawn of creation. This is all explained in the 2nd canto, as well as in the book Brahma Samhita. But suffice it to say, the original knowledge in the universe are the 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam known as Chatushloki, again found in the 2nd canto, chapter 9. So Brahma only needed 4 verses that he heard from Narayan, and with that information, he was able to engineer the construction of the universe. The current Bhagavatam that we read is of 18,000 verses, which were expanded from these original 4 shlokas spoken by Lord Narayan. Whatever was spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Lord Brahma in those 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam was also explained to Narada by Lord Brahma. Narada was Lord Brahma's favorite son. So, of course, Brahma explained it to Narada. Whatever Lord Brahma told Narada Muni was again explained by Narada to Vyasadeva. And for that, you can read about in the 1st canto, 5th chapter. There are 2 chapters, 5th and 6th, where Narada comes to instruct Vyasadeva, informing him that it is now his obligation to compile Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva later considered these instructions in his mind. Srila Vyasadeva considered that whatever he had received from Narada Muni as an explanation of Omkar, so everything starts from Omkar, he would elaborately explain in his book Srimad Bhagavatam as a commentary on the Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra. Vyasadeva collected whatever Vedic conclusions were in the 4 Vedas and 108 Upanishads and placed them in the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra. In the Vedanta Sutra, the purport of all Vedic knowledge is explained, and in Srimad Bhagavatam, the same purport has been explained in 18,000 verses. This is why Vaishnavas prefer Srimad Bhagavatam over the Vedanta Sutra. As I already explained, what are the difficulties with the Vedanta Sutra? But Srimad Bhagavatam is the same exact purport as that which is explained by Vedanta Sutra, and it's done by the same author. Vyasadeva compiled Vedanta Sutra, the same Vyasadeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. So whatever you would possibly learn in the Vedanta Sutra, you will get that from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is called Amala Purana. Although it is a Purana, it is the Amala Purana. It is the spotless Purana. It is the topmost Purana. Therefore, it is to be concluded that the Brahma Sutra is explained vividly in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we don't have to feel shy that we don't read Vedanta Sutra. That's okay. If I know Srimad Bhagavatam, I already know what's in Vedanta Sutra. Also, what is explained in the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam has the same purport as what is explained in the Upanishad. And that is compared to the transitive law in mathematics. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C, because they're all the same. So now we come to this, the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here it is, the essence of, it's three things. First one, sambandha, our relationship with the Supreme Lord. This is the essence of Bhagavatam, understanding our relationship with the Supreme Lord. Sambandha, reconnecting once again. Sambandha means connection, relationship. The second, our activities in that connection, and that is technically called abhideya, which begins at the point of initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. And with that, one begins to execute regulative devotional activities. Regulative, under rules, and it's called Vaidhi Bhakti. It's part of sadhana, or devotional service and practice, but technically it is called Vaidhi, because you have to begin with following rules and regulations. And then number three, the goal of life, love of God, prayojana. So this is what elsewhere Lord Chaitanya said the same thing. He said, these are the only three things all the Vedas are teaching. Yes, there are 4 Vedas, 108 Upanishads, 18 Puranas, Itihasas, Ramayana. There's so many. The Vedic library is tremendous. But Lord Chaitanya elsewhere pointed out, all of this is simply explaining 3 things: your relationship with the Supreme Lord, activities in that connection, and then achieving the goal of life, love of God, is manifest in the 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam known as Chatushloki. Everything's explained in those verses. So now we go to level 4 of today's class. Each level, as you can see, is more and more details. So this is a purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita, the glories of Omkar are described as follows. Om yekaksharang brahma vyaharan mam anusmaran yak prayati tyajan dehang sayati paramang gatim. This verse indicates that Omkar, or Pranava, is a direct representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if at the time of death one simply remembers Omkar, one thus remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is therefore immediately transferred to the spiritual world. So just see, you should all memorize this sentence that I just read. If you can just memorize this and remember at the time of death, you will have achieved complete liberation. Omkar is the basic principle of all Vedic mantras, for it is a representation of Lord Krishna, understanding of whom is the ultimate goal of the Vedas, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya. This line means, Krishna says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. So how do you know that you have graduated from your study of the Vedas? You know that you have achieved your diploma if you understand Krishna. If you understand Krishna, then your Vedic knowledge is successful. Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand these simple facts explained in Bhagavad Gita, and yet they are very proud of being Vedantis. Sometimes, therefore, we refer to the Vedanti philosophers as Vidantis, or those who have no teeth. Vid means without, and Danti means possessing teeth. Very interesting how Sanskrit, Danti, and in English we have the word dentist and dental. Yes, this is another instance showing how Sanskrit is actually the original language of planet Earth. Everything originally comes from the mother of all languages. The statements of Shankara philosophy, which are the teeth of the Mayavadi philosopher, are always broken by the strong arguments of the Vaishnava philosophers, such as the great Acharyas, especially Ramanuja Acharya, Sripad Ramanuja Acharya, and Madhva Acharya, break the teeth of the Mayavadi philosophers, who can therefore be called Vidantis, or toothless. As mentioned above, the transcendental vibration, Omkar, is explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 13. Om ityekaksharang Brahma, vyaharan mam anusmaran, yak prayati tyajan dehang, sayati paramang gitim. After being situated in yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his or her body, one will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Why does Prabhupada say spiritual planets? Because there's a planet of Ram called Ayodhya Loka, a planet of Vamana, Nrsinga. All the different avatars have their own planet. But we are interested in the topmost spiritual planet, Krishna Loka, or Goloka Vrindavan, the planet of Krishna. If one actually understands that Omkar is the sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether one chants Omkar or the Hare Krishna mantra, the result is certainly the same. Here it is, because the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. So that's what I mentioned in the beginning. Here is where Prabhupada states it. The sound Hare Krishna contains Om. The transcendental vibration Omkar is further explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 17. Pitaham asya jagato Mata dhata pitamaha Vedyang pavitram omkara riksama yajur evacha. I am the father, this is Krishna speaking. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, Sama, and Yajur Vedas. Similarly, the transcendental sound Om is further explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, verse 23. Om Tat Sat Iti Nirdesho, Brahmanastri Vidasmrita, Brahmanastena Vedascha, Yagyascha Vihita Pura. From the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om, Tat, Sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, Brahman. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Again, I will emphasize, the primary sacrifice recommended for the age of Kali is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now comes to a very confidential section of this purport. Throughout all the Vedic literatures, the glories of Omkar are specifically mentioned. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his thesis, Bhagavat Sandarbha, says that in the Vedic literature, Omkar is considered to be the sound vibration of the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only this vibration of transcendental sound can deliver a conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. Sometimes Omkar is also called the deliverer, Tar. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the Omkar vibration. Yes, the very first line is this line, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Therefore, Omkar has been described by the great commentator Sridhar Swami as Tarankura, the seed of deliverance from the material world. Since the Supreme Godhead is absolute, His holy name and His sound vibration, Omkar, are as good as He Himself. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the holy name, or Omkar, the transcendental representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has all the potencies of the personality of Godhead. So now Prabhupada mentions the second Shikshastaka verse. Namna makari bahuda nijasarva shaktis tatra pita niyamatak smarane nakalaha. All potencies are invested in the holy vibration of the holy name of the Lord. There is no doubt that the holy name of the Lord, or Omkar, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. In other words, anyone who chants Omkar and the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, immediately meets the Supreme Lord directly in His sound form. So that is very important. When we are chanting Hare Krishna, this is how we should understand that this is the sound form of God. Just as the Murti, the deity, is a form of the Lord, non-different from the Lord, so also the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the sound form of God. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is clearly said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, personally appears before the chanter who engages in chanting the Ashtakshara, 8-syllable mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya. A similar statement in the Mandukya Upanishad declares that whatever one sees in the spiritual world is all an expansion of the spiritual potency Omkar. On the basis of all the Upanishads, Srila Jiva Goswami says that Omkar is the supreme absolute truth and is accepted as such by all the acharyas and authorities. Omkar is beginningless, changeless, supreme, and free from deterioration and external contamination. Omkar is the origin, middle, and end of anything, and any living entity who thus understands Omkar attains the perfection of spiritual identity in Omkar. Omkar, being situated in everyone's heart, is Ishwar, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Ishwara sarva bhutanang hrideshe arjuntishtati. Omkar is as good as Vishnu, because Omkar is as all-pervasive as Vishnu. One who knows Omkar and Lord Vishnu to be identical no longer has to lament or hanker. One who chants Omkar no longer remains a Shudra, but immediately comes to the position of a Brahmana. Simply by chanting Omkar, one can understand the whole creation to be one unit or an expansion of the energy of the Lord. Idang hi vishvang bhagavan ivetaro Yato Jagatstana Nirodha Sambhava. This is a quote from Narada's teachings to Vyasadeva when he was instructing him to compile Srimad Bhagavatam. The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only this cosmic manifestation has emanated, in him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Although one who does not understand concludes otherwise, Srimad Bhagavatam states that the entire cosmic manifestation is but an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Lord. Realization of this is possible simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, Omkar. However, one should not foolishly conclude that because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is omnipotent, that we have manufactured a combination of letters A, U, M to represent him. Factually, the transcendental sound, however, although a combination of the three letters A, U, M, has transcendental potency, and one who chants Omkar will very soon realize Omkar and Lord Vishnu to be non-different. Back when this movement started in the late 60s and early 70s, when here in America we would chant on the street for hours, people used to joke, "Oh, you guys should chant Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Cola-Cola." And that's because they had no understanding that this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is comprised of transcendental sound vibrations. One gets no benefit from chanting Coca-Cola or any material sound vibration, but one gets immense benefit in vibrating transcendental sound vibration. Krishna declares in Bhagavad Gita, Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. I am the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. One should therefore conclude that among the many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Omkar is the sound incarnation. All the Vedas accept this thesis. One should always remember that the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are always identical, Abhinit Van Nama Namino. Since Omkar is the basic principle of all Vedic knowledge, it is uttered before one begins to chant any Vedic hymn. Without Omkar, no Vedic mantra is successful. The Goswami followers of Lord Chaitanya therefore declare that Pranava, Omkar, is the complete representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have analyzed Omkar in terms of its alphabetical constituents as follows. So now we're going even deeper. Here's the verse. Akarenocyate Krishna, Sarva Lokaika Nayaka, U Karenocyate Radha, Ma Karo Jiva Vachaka. Omkar is a combination of the letters A, U, M. Akarenocyate Krishna. The letter A, Akar, refers to Krishna, who is Sarva Lokaika Nayaka, the master of all living entities and planets, both material and spiritual. Nayaka means leader. Krishna is the supreme leader. Nityo Nityanang Chaitanas Chaitananam. By the way, that line, that was a line Prabhupada quoted the very first time I heard his lecture as a brand new devotee visiting the temple. My first lecture, Prabhupada quoted that line, Nityo Nityanang Chaitanas Chaitananam. What it means is, Nityo, one singular eternal, Nityanam, many eternals. Chaitanas, one singular conscious being. Chaitananam, many conscious. So there's one singular eternal conscious entity, Krishna, and then there are innumerable eternal conscious living entities, the living entities. And the difference between them is that the singular, Krishna, is maintaining all the many. The letter U, Ukar, indicates Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Krishna. And the letter M, Makar, indicates the living entities, Jivas. Thus, Om is the complete combination of Krishna, his potency, and his eternal servitors. In other words, Omkar represents Krishna, his name, fame, pastimes, entourage, expansions, devotees, potencies, and everything else pertaining to Krishna. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu states, Sarava Vishyadam, Omkar is the resting place of everything, just as Krishna is the resting place of everything. And here, Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita, Brahmanohi pratishtaham. The Brahman effulgence rests upon Krishna's body. Not that Krishna manifests from the Brahman. No, that is a wrong conclusion. This line from Bhagavad Gita, Brahmanohi pratishtaham, clearly states that it is Krishna from whom the Brahma Jyoti or Brahman emanates. The Mayavadi philosophers consider many Vedic mantras to be the Mahavakya, or the principal Vedic mantra, such as Tattvamasi from the Chandogya Upanishad, Idang Sarvam Yad Ayam, Atma Brahmedang Sarvam from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, Atmai Vedang Sarvam from the Chandogya Upanishad, and Neya Nanasti Kinchana from the Katha Upanishad. But that is a great mistake. Only Omkar is the Mahavakya. All these other mantras that the Mayavadis accept as the Mahavakya are only incidental. They cannot be taken as the Mahavakya or Mahamantra. The mantra Tattvamasi indicates only a partial understanding of the Vedas, unlike Omkar, which represents the full understanding of the Vedas. Therefore, the transcendental sound that includes all Vedic knowledge is Omkar Pranava. Omkar is the representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in sound. This form of his holy name is accepted as a transcendental vibration, Mahavakya, by virtue of which the temporary material manifestation has come into being. If one takes shelter of the sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Omkar, then he or she can realize one's constitutional identity and engage in devotional service, even though in conditioned life. Tattvamasi is accepted as the primary vibration by one who does not accept Pranava, the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name of the Lord, as the chief principle in the Vedic literature. By word jugglery, Shankara Acharya tried to create an illusory representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his relationship with the living entities and the cosmic manifestation. Tattvamasi is a warning to the living entity not to mistake the body for the self. Therefore, Tattvamasi is especially meant for the conditioned soul, whereas the chanting of Omkar or the Hare Krishna mantra is meant for the liberated soul. Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Ayi mukta kulai upasyamanam. Thus the holy name of the Lord is chanted by liberated souls. And similarly, Parikshit Maharaj says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Nivritta Tarshayar Upagiyamanat. The holy name of the Lord can be chanted by those who have fully satisfied their material desires or who have fully situated on the transcendental platform and who are devoid of material desire. The holy name of the Lord can be chanted by one who is completely freed from material contamination. Anyabilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam. Shankara Acharya has indirectly minimized the value of the principal Vedic mantra, Omkar, by accepting a subordinate vibration, Tattvamasi, as the most important Vedic mantra. The sound vibration Omkar is the root of Vedic knowledge. Omkar is known as the Mahavakya, or supreme sound. Whatever meaning is in the supreme sound Omkar is further understood in the Gayatri Mantra. And this, again, same meaning is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 4 shlokas known as Chatushloki. The import of Vedic knowledge, the original word pranava, has been explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. The conclusion is that the Brahma Sutra is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now I will unmute you, and if we have any discussion or questions or comments, then we can entertain those. So I'm now allowing you to unmute